I am so excited that you are all sharing the last keynote of Hackcon with me. How is it over already? Yeah, I was actually a little too hyped when I said that. Let me take it down a notch. So, I would like to share with you what we at MLH have learned about learning. I'm super excited to get started. So, I'm going to introduce myself and what I do. We're going to discuss 4 problems that we've identified with learning and how we're trying to solve them, what's next, and then we'll have time for discussion and questions at the end. That's me. I'm Jamie. I am the product manager for MLH Localhost. Let me hear you if you have been to a Localhost workshop. Let me hear you if you have no idea what that is. Oh, wow, I'm so excited. I figured everyone would know by now. So now on the next slide, when I tell you what it is, I'm not gonna be wasting your time. Very exciting. Okay, so I mentioned that this talk would be about learning. You might be wondering why I have any authority or expertise on learning. I am so glad you asked. I've been an educator my entire life. In 8th grade, I would when we would have a sub in math class, I would teach instead because the subs often were not very good at algebra. I once received a standing ovation for factoring a trinomial. So, throughout high school, I tutored my peers, and I actually dropped out of high school at the beginning of my junior year and homeschooled myself because I didn't feel like traditional education was working for me. I participated in Jumpstart in college, an early literacy program for little ones who might not enter kindergarten ready to succeed. And after college, I joined Teach for America. I taught algebra and geometry in Miami for 3 years. Since finishing my tenure with TFA, I've worked with the Flatiron School as a pre-college summer teaching fellow, which is how I learned to code. It was not at a hackathon, I am sorry. Then at WinCode Academy, where I designed, taught, and directed their first ever WinCamp, their high school web development boot camp. And then I joined the curriculum team at Codecademy, where I built out a lot of the new front-end curriculum. So I've worked in formal education, boot camp education, and online education. I have seen it all. Do you know what I've learned in my time teaching, my whole life, really? Learning is broken. And as a lifelong educator, that breaks my heart. But what does this have to do with what I do at Major League Hacking? Well, when Swift and I initially discussed my joining the team, I was intrigued. It sounded like MLH was doing something really exciting in the area of learning, something that I hadn't seen before, and I thought that I had seen everything. So what was MLH doing that got me so hyper than my normal hype? Let me tell you a story. It all started with this guy. Who remembers the Faux Hawk? Yeah? It's a throwback. So, as with most things at MLH, it all started with Swift identifying a problem that our community had. So, Swift has attended a lot of hackathons, and he noticed a lot of hackers were slumping in the middle of the night. And he would try to get them hyped up. He'd jump on the stage, he would dance to "We Didn't Start the Fire," or maybe that was Today, I'm not really sure, it's starting to run together. And he would try to get people hype, and he would see what organizers were doing to try to get people hype. In usual Swift fashion, he wanted to create a scalable solution to this problem. And he thought maybe he could create some fun activities for organizers to run at events. Now, it wasn't only Swift. This was a recurring problem that a lot of members of our team were seeing. Like this guy. In fact, cup stacking was literally a joke that John started when he was at an event and, for some unknown reason, had a ton of solo cups and needed to generate a bunch of excitement and was like, "Hey guys, you want to have some fun?" And so cup stacking became a thing. How many of y'all like cup stacking? Woo! I know, right? It's a blast, I know. So, after spending a little time figuring out what events were popular with hackers, the team at MLH created resources for organizers on how to run slideshow karaoke and no light. Slideshow karaoke is when you get up here and there's a slideshow behind you and you don't know what's on it and you try to give it, much like I'm doing right now. And no light is an activity where you try to code without being able to preview what you're coding. Providing event guides for these two activities to all of our organizers took one thing off the plate of busy organizers and made it easier to run these events at hackathons. It also encouraged organizers who might not be running these sort of late-night pick-me-up activities to give it a shot. We kept listening, and we learned that you were all interested in and excited about having more things to power the experience for hackers at your events. In addition to fun activities, the team also noticed that lots of organizers were trying to come up with workshop content. But honestly, how hard is that? Tell me, how hard is it to come up with content?
Really hard.
It's not easy, right? And you all have enough on your plate. The team at MLH realized that they had, this was before I joined, the opportunity to create something exciting for the community. And thus, MLH Localhost was born. And with every new baby, it grew. The team at MLH made our first education-focused MLH Localhost module in May of 2017. That was Intro to Docker. Shortly thereafter, Swift created Hacking with Amazon Alexa, followed by Building Scalable Apps featuring CockroachDB. Can I see a show of hands of anybody who's done any of these 3 workshops? Oh my God. Oh, love that. So, when I started at MLH, we had those 5 aforementioned workshops, as well as 2 more in the pipeline. BugFree Coating with Spark Ada, as well as Intro to GraphQL, powered by Shopify. Baby Localhost was growing slowly but surely. And at the beginning of 2018, our baby hit her growth spurt. Localhost caught on fire. Docker, Alexa, CockroachDB, Ada Core, Shopify, Quorum, Mendix, Microsoft Azure, Twilio, Slack, Unity, Arc.io, Silicon Labs, Google. Soon, you'll be able to host a workshop on any of these topics. So, Localhost by the numbers. In 2017, we had 7 modules available for you to run. You had run 179 workshops and empowered 2,804 hackers. That's like 5 hackathons, 6 hackathons. All right. By the end of 2018, we will have at least 22 modules for you to run so that you can run 500 workshops across the world and empower 10,000 hackers. And with your help, by the end of next year, there will be 40 modules to run, minimum. There will be 2,000 workshops run next year, and we will empower 40,000 hackers, which is almost as many as we empower every year with the League. Please give yourselves a round of applause. But what exactly is MLH Localhost? Although I know that many of you have heard it, and now I know that many of you have not, allow me to describe it to you. MLH Localhost is, essentially, a library of workshops in a box. We create all the content you need to deliver awesome technical workshops and help you build a hacker community to experience it with. MLH Localhost is a different learning experience that goes against everything you might know about traditional education. In fact, Localhost as an idea seems absolutely ridiculous. Allow me to set it up for you. MLH Localhost workshops are taught by beginners to other beginners in 90 minutes for fun. Oh, I wasn't even pausing for that. Thank you. So, why is Localhost so great? Why are sponsors so hungry for MLH Localhost rather than just adding more tutorials and quick starts to their website instead of building out their own education teams, instead of hiring more developer evangelists? Why is MLH Localhost so fire right now? Well, because of you. The big one is, as always, you all, our community. The companies that partner with us want to help fix what's broken about learning. And they believe, as we all do, that you have the ability to do this. How are you going to do this? The second reason why sponsors are so excited about MLH Localhost is learning. We believe that Localhost is blowing up because MLH Localhost workshops are, in fact, a perfect storm of all the same things that make learning new skills at hackathons so awesome. Now that you know what Localhost is and how it got started, I am so excited to share with you what we've learned about learning and how that plays out in Localhost. So, allow me to tell you 4 problems with learning and how we're solving them. Problem number 1. Does this sound like math class? I've mentioned a few times that I'm a teacher, right? That's what I've been doing before all of this tech stuff. Well, I taught everyone's favorite subject, math. Oh, can I hear it for math? Oh my God, my students were never this excited about it. This is great. I want to teach you all math, but not right now. Let me tell you something. Teaching math is a lot like it is in the movies. It didn't matter if I was trying to teach how to find a higher order derivative of an exponential function or how to add 2 plus 2, inevitably, this would happen. Somebody would get up and they would have a smart remark about when are we ever gonna use this? What's wrong with this scenario? Why does the learner have to ask this question? Why doesn't she know why she's learning this? Why doesn't she know why this is useful? And frankly, does anyone in this, I'm gonna say something controversial, GIF, know what's going on here? Does anyone look happy? If you had to describe the overall sentiment of this scene, what words come to mind? Shout out some words. What do you feel here? Oh, you feel like a bunch of trolls. What do you think the people in this graphical interchange format file feel? Frustrated. What else do they feel? They're bored. Does any of them look excited? And that's a problem. It's hard to learn what you aren't excited about. How many times have you gone to math class and done a bunch of contrived examples that had nothing to do with you? I can't speak for all of you, but not many people are very excited about figuring out how many apples Jimmy has after he's given 17 of them to Jenny. For the CS majors in the room, this feels like the wrong time to tell you I studied econ. How many of you learned how to script 3 different search algorithms before you learned how that skill would ever serve you in your job or in projects that you wanted to create? Right? Were you excited about bubble sort? Were you as excited about bubble sort as John is? Swift, what's your favorite search algorithm? Binaries, of course it is. Of course it is. So, this is a problem that holds true across all sorts of subjects. We're learning things that are unexciting and feel irrelevant to us. However, this isn't true about the hackers at your events. Hackers build things that they're excited about. No one goes to a hackathon and builds a project that they hate using a technology that they hate. No one goes to a hackathon and builds something they don't want to build. I mean, unless you're not getting along with your team, but that's a different, there was probably a talk on that earlier. That's not this one. Hackers want to go to hackathons to make something cool. And this is what gets them to spend the weekend doing it. And this is what gets you all to give up all of your free time to ignore? Are you ignoring your events? To organize these events. The fact that hackathons exist proves that people will sacrifice a lot and do a lot of hard work to do something they're excited about. Your community attends your events and solves problems that are interesting to them. No one at a hackathon is implementing a merge sort except maybe Swift and John. So, what does this tell us about learning? We learned that learning happens when the goal is exciting and relevant. The question is, When are we ever going to use this? And why do we have to learn this? And will this be on the test? Are questions that we probably have all found ourselves asking at one point or another. You know who's not asking these questions? Hackers at your hackathons. So you motivate learners by getting them excited about things by making it relevant to them. What does this look like in a localhost workshop? Every MLH Localhost workshop builds something exciting that makes sense to hackers. In every workshop, you're presented with a code base for a cool application that is slightly broken, and the workshop teaches you step by step everything you need to know to be able to deploy and fix it. You're not building another to-do app or solving coding challenges, even though those activities are fun and they do have their place. You're working 36 hours straight on an application that you might actually want to use. That's at a hackathon. It's like 90 minutes in a localhost workshop. You're working on an application that you might actually want to use, something that was built with our community in mind. Let's look at an example. In Learn GraphQL powered by Shopify, the application learners work with is everyone's favorite Nokia phone classic, Snake. This is a snake game with power-ups, custom power-ups added. You can see those at the bottom of this image. By the way, this app was developed by our very own Nico Lazares. What up, Nico? Woo! He's right here. Bother him later. Okay. The game was written in JavaScript, and the power-ups are implemented using the Shopify Storefront API. This is how the workshop goes. Participants download an incomplete code base for the game. It's missing the developer credentials for the Shopify API and the GraphQL calls to the Storefront API, the ones that allow users to purchase the power-ups. The workshop teaches participants step by step everything they need to know to finish the app and get it working. How to get Shopify developer credentials, how to write the missing API calls in order to actually purchase the power-ups, and enough background information about GraphQL and APIs in general for all of it to make sense. Quick poll, who noticed my mad snake skills in that screencast? Thank you. Adding power-ups to a game is cool. It's fun. It's something you might actually want to do. Learning happens when the goal is exciting and relevant, and we create localhost workshops based around cool implementations of the technology at hand. So, problem number 2. Balance a binary search tree. Kidding. Let me tell you all a story about a professional development that I once attended when I was a teacher. When we arrived to the workshop, each one of us, adults, mind you, completed this worksheet. Cut me some slack, I was a preschool teacher at the time. I'm sure you remember these types of things from school. Crossword puzzles in social studies class, word searches in English, coloring in maps and geography. The phrase busy work comes to mind. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all worksheets are totally devoid of merit, but if you had to tell me, what would you say is the learning goal of this worksheet? What am I supposed to be able to do once I've finished matching the shoes? After we completed the worksheet, we were given an assortment of random supplies and told we had 5 minutes to make a shoe. They were silly, and the activity was hilarious. At the end of the activity, the workshop facilitator asked us, from which activity did you learn more about shoes? Obviously, the activity in which we made shoes. So what was the problem that we were supposed to identify from the juxtaposition of these two activities? Allow me to tell you. We try to learn things without actually doing them. And again, this is not what we see at hackathons. At hackathons, hackers are actually making things. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I haven't been to as many hackathons as you all, but I've never seen anybody doing a worksheet at a hackathon. What is so cool and exciting about hackathons? What is so cool and exciting about hackathons is that people get down to business and make stuff right away. So we learned that you actually have to do the skill you're trying to build. When I say it like that, it almost feels obvious, right? So how did we make this a part of Localhost? In every MLH Localhost workshop, you write code in an actual application. In these workshops, participants are not just reading about a technology, but actually getting their hands dirty and writing some code and making some mistakes and fixing them. Let's take a look at another example. In our soon-to-be-released Blockchain Basics, an Introduction to Quorum developed by JP Morgan, participants code a function in a smart contract. Participants are provided the code base for this really cool decentralized blockchain application, and instead of learning Solidity, the smart contract language, by doing a bunch of tutorials and reading the documentation, they get right to adding code to a smart contract that they're going to deploy and test out with their friends. This activity sets learners up to actually be able to write their own smart contracts. They do the skill they're trying to build right away. So, you have to learn by doing, and you have to be doing right away. This is the second thing we've learned about learning. Problem 3. I didn't write a joke for this one. By the way, that workshop is really cool. You should do it. Hit me up. Let me tell you another story, because I'm just up here rambling at this point. When I was applying for the fellowship to the Flatiron School that I did in 2015, I needed to build a simple command line tic-tac-toe game as part of the application process. I was new. I had no idea how to code, so I completed a ton of tutorials. Codecademy, Code School, Quick Start from the documentation. I mean, I was on websites that don't even exist anymore. I was coding nonstop, literally in bed. Eventually, I could write all of the functions that the game needed. Display the board, computer makes a move, player makes a move, somebody wins, somebody loses, whatever. You know what I couldn't do? I couldn't get the program to just run. I was testing each of these functions individually in Replit by passing some dummy information and crossing my fingers that they worked. I was actually starting to lose my mind. What did I do in my desperation? I went to GitHub, and I looked at what other people were building. I learned so much so quickly. I was hooked. But I was also upset. Why the hell did it take me so long to try that? Well, in school, you're not even supposed to look at other people's code. Oh, can I hear that enthusiasm? Can we do that? Oh my God. Oh, I know, right? Like, you're submitting a homework assignment and you're like, I hope I didn't name my variable the same as somebody else's because I'm going to get kicked out of school. So, it took me a really long time for it to occur to me that I should go to GitHub and see what other people were building. Sure, maybe part of that was being a beginner and not having a lot of experience with or exposure to GitHub, but at least part of it was the fact that looking at other people's code felt like cheating. But that's not what's going on at hackathons, right? Hackers engage with other people's code early and often. Hackers are working in teams. Hackers are discussing code with their teammates and mentors. Hackers are using open source projects. Hackers are engaging with other people's code. What is so important about this? We learned that you learn better when you engage with other people's code. There are so many benefits to engaging with other people's code. You learn best practices. You understand your own work better by comparison. So, in every localhost workshop, we include a sample application and teach you how to read and talk about that code. These code bases are built with best practices in mind and give you the opportunity to piece together the application after the workshop has ended. And in every workshop, we're teaching you how to read and explain code to others. Let's look at another example. We do this in every single workshop, but in this one, I'd like to highlight our Hack the Technical Interview Algorithms Practice module. So I know what I said about algorithms. I know I've been talking a lot of crap about algorithms, but it's something that you have to do to get a job, right? A lot of companies want you to be able to go to the board and implement a merge sort. So we created this module. But companies don't just want you to be able to write the code, they need you to be able to explain it. So in this module, for every solution presented, we actually teach participants to go through the solution line by line, explaining it and comparing it to their partner's solution. The ability to engage with and read other people's code is critical, and it's built into every single localhost workshop. So, the third thing that we've learned about learning is that it's really important to read and engage with other people's code. And now, I'm going to commit the ultimate faux pas of giving a talk, and I'm going to have a fourth point. Problem number 4. The fact that we aren't reading other people's code arises, at least in part, from how prescriptive, competitive, and, for lack of a better term, uncollaborative learning has come to be. We often learn from a centralized authority by ourselves in a vacuum. School looks like this, right? But we know that this isn't working. Study groups, hackathons, cheating, every one of these things is evidence that sitting in a lecture and passively receiving information doesn't get the whole job done for everyone. If the traditional model of learning, going to a class, taking notes, doing the homework, pulling your hair out, was working, we wouldn't be here working so hard to disrupt it. Boot camps wouldn't have popped up. Hackathons wouldn't be taking over the world. No one would be interested in localhost workshops. YouTube would have half the content. Stack Overflow would be nothing. What precisely is not working? We can't all passively receive information from one source. Listening to a single authority talk about a skill is not a particularly useful way to learn. We don't see this at hackathons. There isn't a single source of knowledge passing that knowledge onto others. What is happening at hackathons? And this is my favorite part. Hackers teach each other. We learned that we should be learning from each other. We learn best when we teach and learn from our peers. Hackers learn better when they learn together. So what did we do with this information? MLH Localhost workshops are hacker-led. I'm not coming to your school and teaching you quorum. You are teaching quorum to your community. You are teaching your community GraphQL. You are teaching your community how to make a Slack app, how to build a game for Unity, how to use the Twilio API. Not me, you. This is the entire premise of a localhost workshop. In localhost workshops, a hacker or an organizer, one and the same, brings together a group of hackers to learn a skill. This creates an environment in which hackers are learning from and teaching to each other. And it's working. And it's exciting. Whew, that was a lot. And it's a little hot in here, right? So let me wrap this thing up. Let's recap our 4 learnings about learning. We learn better when we're excited about it. We need to build real things to practice our skills. We need to engage with other people's code, and we learn better when we teach each other. So, now you know what we've been up to. Where are we going? Other than back to New York in about an hour. I know. MLH Localhost is changing. It's growing. Our baby is going to be an adult soon. Localhost started when Swift realized that our community needed a solution to a common problem. Localhost will continue to evolve to support these problems. Here's 2 of them and how we're solving them. We want to make it even easier for you all to have successful workshops in your community by empowering you to deliver the workshops as successfully as possible and to build a strong community. Presenting material is tough. Building a community is hard. I mentioned earlier that I gave a workshop on teaching tips. That 45-minute workshop was packed with things that you can do better. And I'm going to make that available when we get back to New York, and I'm going to hope that you all use it in your future workshops. But wait, there's more. Organizer trainings will become available. We're so excited to launch a series of organizer training materials that will cover topics like how to increase attendance at your workshop, how to effectively deliver content, what to do after the workshop ends, and so many other things that we've heard from you that you're not sure about or want support about, or you have told us how you're doing well, and we want to share that with everyone in the community. However, as I mentioned in this talk, learning from a centralized source is not the only effective method of learning. It might not even be the best. We should be learning from who? Each other. So I'm really excited about peer groups. Many of you have participated in a peer group with the League, and we're going to launch them for Localhost. We created these peer groups because we believe that we learn better when we teach each other. Organizers who attend these groups share some knowledge with each other, and in doing so, flesh out their own understandings of their ideas and multiply their knowledge. And that is really special. And they work. These peer groups work. Make some noise if you've learned something from one of our peer groups. So we're gonna start having them for Localhost too. And I've been beating this like a dead horse, but even more workshops. I said 40, and I want you to hold me to it. By the end of next year, there's gonna be 40. Maybe there's gonna be 50. I'm gonna get too hype, it's late. So, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm so excited. There's going to be so much coming down the pipeline for Localhost, which brings me to my final announcement, MLH Localhost Momentum Rewards. There are so many workshops, and we want to encourage you to bring them all to your community. So in order to do that, we're gonna give you cool swag, we're gonna give you food, we're gonna give you t-shirts, we're gonna give you custom stickers, exclusive stickers. I know how you all like your swag. I've seen you this weekend. So all you have to do is run a workshop and get points. That's it. And then I send you cool stuff. That's how much I like you. There's a ton of new stuff coming down the pipeline, and I'm going to need some help managing it all. MLH Localhost is hiring. If you're passionate about learning new skills, building a community, and sharing these experiences with tens of thousands of learners worldwide, hit me up, jamie@mlh.io, and talk to me about becoming our Localhost community manager. Whew. Hopefully you have learned a lot. And hopefully you are like 1/3 as excited as I am about what's coming up in the next year. We can't wait to see what you learn, build, and share. That's me, Jamie Wittenberg. Get out your phone and follow me on Twitter for learning resources and dank memes. Visit mlhlocal.host/apply, host a workshop, and ask me some questions.
Thank you, Jamie.